Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Um, yeah, I just wanted to go over this massive full moon that we're having tomorrow, May 12th, 2025. It's in Ophiuchus, and you're going to hear most people saying Scorpio, but I use the 13th sign Ophiuchus, and I consider this full moon in Ophiuchus. So let's dive into what that means. If you don't know what Ophiuchus is, it's like I said, the 13th sign. It's basically the only sign that has the ether elements. Sorry about the camera shaking, it's a little windy. It's a warm day, so I got to keep the windows down. But anyways, yes, it's the only sign that is ether, and it's kind of special in that sense. Doesn't mean that it's any better than the other signs, or elements, but basically it has to do with a lot of different things. It has to do with the quantum realm, quantum possibilities. It has to do with healing, pain on all levels. If you know anything about Chiron, Chiron is one of the rulers. Pluto is also in Black Moon Lilith. What else can I say about this? It's doesn't have a modality. It's not fixed, mutable, or cardinal. It can move through any of those. So it's sort of like it's very shamanic in that sense. It can be what it needs to be in the moment. And it's not in a Neptunian way where it's camouflaging or it's being an illusion. It actually literally changes into what it needs to be in that moment, if that makes sense. So it's represented, the sign is represented by the man holding the serpent. So it's kind of symbolizing that it's halfway between being connected with nature and kind of like the beast, and also balancing that with the higher mind and logic, and being human, that sort of thing. It's about being able to hold sacred knowledge and stuff. So that's just kind of like a really quick run through. If you aren't familiar with Ophiuchus, I do have a series called the Healing Your Chiron series, and you can check that in my playlist. And if you look at the intro video, I go even more in depth about Ophiuchus there if you need to go and check that out first and then come back to this video. So anyways, getting back to this full moon, it's massive because, like I touched on, Ophiuchus is about can be about making quantum jumps and leaps, and that's what I'm feeling that this full moon is about. So for those that resonate with this message, you might have, let me touch on this too real quick. So I consider Ophiuchus to represent all of your lifetimes, including on planet, on Earth, and off planet elsewhere. So yeah, that's tying in with this energy of, there's a lot of patterns that I'm feeling with this full moon that maybe patterns you've been stuck in throughout all of your lifetimes, your past lives, parallel lives. And this full moon is giving opportunity to break out of those old patterns, those old ways of thinking, and literally transform yourself into a new way of thinking, and therefore a new reality, a new life. And so let me dive into some of the aspects that are happening in this chart. So full moons are always involving opposition between the sun and the moon. So the sun's in Taurus. We're in Taurus season right now. And Uranus is also conjunct the sun. So Uranus is also asking us to just break out of those old patterns, become free, revolutionize ourselves, have an inner revolution that will then be reflected in the outer, the outer world, your life, and align with basically more universal ways of thinking that are in alignment with universal law. And then The nodal axis, which is the north node and the south node. If you know anything about, a little bit about astrology, it has to do with your karma and your dharma, your destiny. So the nodal axis always involves two signs, a pair of signs. So it's north nodes in Pisces right now, south nodes in Virgo. So already the collective is focusing on these new opportunities and imagining new realities, new ways of thinking, and also exploring maybe new belief systems. That's all very Pisces. And Saturn's wrapping up its run through Pisces, and it's also conjunct the North Node. So I'm actually going to be making a Saturn and Aries video, because Saturn will be entering Aries this coming week. But just to give you a little rundown, too, with Saturn, I do consider I'm different. I'm very different from a lot of other astrologers in the way I believe and the way I see things. But another way that I differ is I consider Saturn exalted in Pisces. Why is that? Because I look at exaltation differently. Most astrologers would see exaltation as almost like an extra comfy sign, almost like a rulership, an extra sign of rulership. And I don't see it that way. I see it more of a transcendence for the planet. It's asking the planet to stretch itself to the outer limits of its natural bandwidth of frequency. And so when you think about Saturn and Pisces, Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius, which are very rational, grounded signs. Well, Aquarius is somewhat grounded, but very rational signs. And Pisces is not very rational. It's all about, I think there is some level of rationality there, because it can be detached in certain instances from, circumstances and emotions. But for the most part, it's a water sign. It's very emotional and empathetic. And so anyways, it's asking Saturn to stretch itself, because Saturn doesn't, it wants to focus on the left brain and the logic and whatnot. So it's really asking Saturn to dive into those depths of emotion, and also new possibilities and new realities, because Saturn really rules the physicality and the materialization of possible realities. So everything exists first as like a thought or a vision, which is kind of Neptune, and then it eventually, through our actions and our continual thoughts and whatnot, like what we put our focus on, but especially our actions, then it materializes and becomes reality, which is Saturn. So yeah, that's why I consider Saturn exalted in Pisces. And so with it being conjunct the North Node, it's really helping us to ground new realities too, and what we want for ourselves into the material realm. And so to me, that's kind of helping support this full moon. And it's also the North Node Saturn combo is trining the full moon. So that's a beneficial flowing benevolent energy. So it's helping to support, like I said, the full moon. And then the other big thing is that since there's that trine happening with both, like I said, the Saturn North Node trining the full moon, and then the Sun, Uranus, and Taurus is also trining the South Node in Virgo. It's being connected to this T square, which is basically when there's an opposition and then squares. So two squares, which is 90 degrees, and to another planet. So basically, the nodal axis, the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo, is they're both squaring Jupiter and Gemini right now, which is forming this what's called a T square. So it looks like a T if you were to look at the chart. And so this is just a lot of friction and a lot of pressure buildup. And the way I look at T squares is how to release the kind of the pressure, and the pressure valve is through that planet that's but the opposition is squaring. So the planet that's jutting out, forming that bottom part of the T, that would be Jupiter. Now here's the tricky part. Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment, meaning it's in the opposite sign that wants to be in. It wants to be in Sagittarius or wants to be in Pisces, its other sign. But Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. So T square is already a little tricky because there's a lot of pressure and a lot of friction. But I don't get copyrighted. But um, yeah, there's just a lot of new opportunities being presented through both the Jupiter energy, that North Node and Pisces energy, and um, also Uranus is asking us to break free, like I said before, and find a new way of thinking. And so I would say the plus is that all these energies are kind of working together to help us break free of these old patterns and old ways of thinking. But with the Jupiter and Gemini, it's kind of like, okay, you're being presented with two paths. It could be more than that, but since Gemini is the twins, I'm using that as an example. And so the challenge is pretty much like all paths. This is my belief. All paths are working to benefit you for your highest good, but there's more optimal paths. And so the key here is to use your intuition, meditate, do whatever helps you to get in tune with your higher self, God's source, and find the highest, most aligned path for you, which is, that's going to look different for everybody. So I think that's the challenge here, because like I said, Jupiter's like expansive energy too, and so when it's in Gemini, it sort of disperses that energy kind of in all these different directions. That's very Gemini-like. And so again, it's like finding the right direction, because if you think about like Jupiter and Sagittarius energy, it's almost like an arrow, like an archer that is deciding where to shoot that arrow, and then once the arrow is launched, it's going in that same direction, the same line pretty much of direction. And so when it's in Gemini, again, this energy is kind of being dispersed and sort of it's being diffused in a way, instead of just directed in one direction. So again, it's just finding that's the key, is finding the right path and that right direction to move forward in. And yeah, I mean, I feel like if you can really find that sweet spot with this full moon, and like I said, just to tie in with Ophiuchus is the quantum realm, the quantum possibility. So it's all possibilities, all realities, and so there is that version of you that is your highest and best self, that you have an opportunity. We all, okay, technically, I want to just, disclaimer, we always have the opportunity to quantum leap and quantum jump because of our free will. But it's just with this full moon, it's almost like the universe has all this extra energy backing us and pushing us to really find our best and the highest version of ourselves. So I think with that, I'm gonna pull some cards from the Psychic Tarot and see if we can get any more information to add to this. Hopefully I explained it well. I tried to break it down as best as I could. You can always drop some comments at the bottom of the video if you have any questions. Yeah, feel free to do that. So, okay, Spirit, do you have any advice for this full moon in Ophiuchus? Also, it's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Ooh. prosperity begins. This is kind of a very Taurusy card, so Taurus energy is involved with this full moon. So yeah, I'm just getting that again. You can help. You have that opportunity to ground this new version of yourself and this new reality into existence by using your free will and choosing where to put your focus, you know. And see how there's butterflies too. So there's going to be massive transformation once you decide to do this, because you're literally transforming into a new version of yourself. It's like, um, so like in the metamorphosis of a butterfly, Scorpio is kind of like the caterpillar, surviving up until the point that it knows it's going to change, and so then it has to ultimately surrender to the change. And then Ophiuchus is the actual chrysalis stage, where the caterpillar is literally being liquefied by its own, you know, secretions and being transformed. And then it's emerging. It's that initial emergence as the new self from the chrysalis. And then Sagittarius would be once the butterfly's out and it's going around and flying and um, being the new version of itself. So yeah, I feel like that's tying in with this energy. Feeling maybe one more card, and we will wrap this up. Oh, let's do two. Just one card, Spirit. Oh wow. Yep. Got transformation. Look at that. 13. 13 sign for Ophiuchus. This is very much an Ophiuchus card. She's got the butterfly wings behind her. I mean, Spirit's just reiterating this is massive, massive opportunity for transformation and growth. Becoming a whole new you. There's not much more I can say. I just feel like Spirit's confirming what I've already been talking about. So, with that said, I wish everybody well. Happy full moon. Happy Mother's Day. If you are doing some traveling too, I would try to avoid long distance travel if you can, because Jupiter is also in conjunct the full moon, and full moon energy can make people a little crazy. So traveling is probably not advised, but if you do, just be extra careful, double check and triple check your plans, prepare for, you know, cancellations for flights, that sort of thing. Just those are things to watch out for. But and again, Jupiter is also in Gemini, so there can be a lot of shenanigans with long distance travel. So ultimately, it's your choice, your free will. But if you decide to travel, just be extra careful. Like I said, prepare. So, all right, guys, I will see you guys in the next video, and hope everybody can get through this full moon all right, and hope everybody chooses their highest and best version of themselves at this time for this full moon energy. All right, see ya.